are you doing? I think you probably are thinking the same thing as I do. I'm more into this tap beer. I have this gorgeous app here. It tells me in 30 minutes my beer is cold. That means that I have only 30 minutes to speak. So we will see how it goes. I started now, okay? Or 35, then the beer really is cold.
You have 35.
Oh, gorgeous. Okay. Snøhetta. Snøhetta is the highest mountain in the Dovre mountain plateau. At Dovre, we have the mountain king. His name is Dovre Gubben. He's a troll. And our first office was above Dovre Gubben's hallway. It was on the top floor. And that's where our name comes from. People, we are Snøhetta. We create architecture, landscapes, interiors, and brand design. Human interactions shape the space we design and how we operate. 200 employees around the world, around 40 different nations, 50% women, 50% men. We are an international office, based in Oslo, based on Scandinavian values. This is a picture of our head office. It's a warehouse in the harbor of Oslo. And this is a picture from our office space. It's Monday meeting, and we're all sitting there in the amphitheater. Since 2001, I have been a Snøhetta. My name is Astrid. I was born in California by a Norwegian mother and a Dutch father. I was raised on the coastal island of Stord on the west coast of Norway. As a project leader, I've been leading several competitions, winning competitions and projects. Among them, King Abdullah's Culture and Learning Center, 100,000 square meters of culture in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. And the other, which I'm going to speak about today, is KMD, the Art and Design Center in Bergen, now named Fine Art, Music and Design Center, KMD. This is a picture of KMD. It's a pioneering work in the construction industry, in lean design, BIM, and construction management. And if you see KIB in some of the illustrations, that is because this project has been ongoing since 2005 and just changed name. Does this seem familiar? I've been through quite a few projects having that feeling. Everybody is running. Nobody looks aside. We have different tools. Nobody is acting. Design processes, they are complex and they are iterative. With new tools like BIM, there are almost no limitations anywhere when it comes to the amount of information. I will use this opportunity to talk about how we, through one single project, have created this new mindset of how to manage the enormous information flow. I will share some methods we have established enabling the design team to slice up the pile of information into manageable pieces. The outcome is steady and constant workflows delivering information into the BIM model, workflows that are, and this is important, workflows that are conclusive and irreversible. This is a ceiling plan. That's where all fields meet. We know it. It's some of the most complex items we have, and especially in an art and design school with over 200 systems, a lot of machineries that needs to interact. There are, of course, many challenges to overcome during design. Today, I will focus on some of them. First of all, I've already mentioned it, it's the information flow. No limits and new tools. So then the question is, how to manage the amount of information? How to enable us to chop up into manageable work packages? How to create steady and constant workflows that deliver products that are conclusive and irreversible. In the KMD project, our focus has been we want to optimize the input from the specialists. Highly competent engineering and design team in a high-cost country. We want to make sure that we get the right product at the right time. Let's start with a small film. Do I press this again? Okay. This is our wooden block floor in the KMD project. 140,000 blocks, 70 by 140 millimeters. It takes a lot of effort. You need to know your trade. You need to know what comes first and what comes last. You also need to interact with others. For example, this hall has a ceiling height of 23 meters. Nobody can work above you when you are kneeling. This is our BIM model. The wooden block floor has 140,000 pieces. Our cross-disciplinary model for Snøhetta, for the engineering fields of electro and ventilation, had altogether 100,000 items. A complex model to puzzle together. And we will talk more about how we decided to go ahead. In the KMD project, firstly, we demanded all participants to work in the same tool, a Revit model. Secondly, we demanded all participants to have the same goal. We were all focusing on the same effort to fill in the BIM model, and I say this now for the third time in this lecture, with cross-disciplinary and quality-checked information. It sounds easy. Our main objectives were, A, in the design phase, we wanted to create flow efficiency instead of resource efficiency. And why? The more you're able to control before you start construction, the better. Investment in thorough and cross-disciplinary quality-checked design pays off on the construction site. Secondly, in the construction phase, we wanted to create flow efficiency, once again, plus execution control. and why? Execution control means to be prepared and to know what comes when. Mistakes in construction cost us all losses, poor quality and rework. So this is our BIM model. We're going to start and we're going to deliver. This lecture will focus on design phase in KMD, and only that. And we have already talked about all participants having the same goal, the BIM model. And we have talked about focus on having flow efficiency instead of resource efficiency. For the BIM model as such, we want to have a process that gives us, 1, a steady and continuous value adding into the model. 2, cross-disciplinary, this is the 4th time, quality checked information from start to handover. How? We decided to look at design as a production line, based on the philosophy from lean industry. A design group, as a design group, you will start with an empty shell, and you will fill it from that point until it's complete. And as you may understand, the BIM model is our product. This is an example from Porsche. Did you know that all cars in Porsche are unique? All of them have a customer behind, ordering a special product. This is the production line. It has a start and it has a handover. It also has some resources, and we have some input to the car. So, when talking about design being a process, you must ask, what processes do we have that will add value into our BIM model? You may define a process being a set of activities that interact to achieve a result. Or we can do it a little bit simpler. In this figure, you see you have input on one side, you have activity in the middle, above you have some resources, below you have a procedure, and finally you have an output. So what does that mean? Well, we can say that the input is egg, and it's milk, and it's salt and sugar. We could say the resource is the gourmet chef. Why not? And the activity, that's something you would add in a special tact. And the procedure, that must be then the recipe, huh? So, then you're finished. So, what have we made? A cake? Egg and milk? Good. And the chef, he's a well-known Belgian chef. His name is Peter Grossen. He has a 3-star Michelin restaurant. He must be able to make something really good, I think. So we have the activity that has been adding. And here's the directions. Yeah? You get what it is now? It's of course a Belgian waffle, huh? Yeah. So that's the way we work. Coming back to our BIM model, actually the same procedure. You have a continuous input to your model. You have some activities you add. And you have a final output. We have resources. And there are resources that are the highly competent design team. They can add activity into the model in order to get the final output. But then comes the question, how do we know the recipe? How do we define the directions? What to do when? You see the BIM model, it starts with an empty shell. It's going to be finished. That's the final output. It's going to go through 3 waves. That's the building site, the procurement. Remember the picture where everybody was running? How do we avoid chaos in iterative processes, in creative processes? Remember, we have a highly qualified team. They are the best, for sure, but they also cost a lot of money. We are about to spend 20,000 man-hours, and one of the specialists, he's a Danish guy. He's an expert on explosions. He's only going to spend 30 hours. How do we know when to ask him to come? Not too early, not too late. This is, and now you have to, this is the harder stuff, okay? It's going to be easy afterwards. This is a Pcp map. It's a strategical tool. Pcp means Project Creation Process Map. Here you have level 1. That's the highest level of the map. It's familiar for us all. It's the phases in a project. You start with the early sketches, and you finalize with handing over the building. Okay? So far, so good. Then the next level. You see some gates? A typical gate is something you cannot... If you can't meet the gate, you can't proceed the project. So a typical gate in Norway would be building permit. Some other countries, they don't care about that. But in Norway, it's no use to continue with the project if you don't have the building permit. Then you have the different processes. In our project, we had project management on the top level, which is the strategical management of a project. You have design, procurement, users' needs and users' equipment, and constructions. All these are processes. And each one of these processes has a key point. They are placed in a logical order. And even more important, each one of these key points has an owner. An owner can be the architect, the engineer, the project manager. It can be the user, the client. So how to read this map? Well, we are first of all going to talk only about the design, so you can relax. The worst thing is over now, okay? And you see the line here? The key points are placed in a logical order. And at this point in the project, we are way into the design phase. And on the right-hand side, there's written one specific thing that you cannot read, actually. But it's written that the MEP engineer is to deliver his functional description. To the left side, there are 2 dots. And the dot says 2 things. The architect needs to finish his or her ceiling plan, and the user has to have the equipment layout finished. These are both needed for the engineer to put up. Oh my gosh, it's only 10 minutes left. Oh my gosh, so I have to talk faster. So, there we go. Actually, the design team used almost 2 weeks to create this map together. And the benefit is that during 14 days, we get to know each other. That's fine. But even more important, we get to understand the dependencies in the team as such. So, as a team, we are now, I have to jump a little bit because I'm talking too slow. I normally don't do that, but that's okay. Let's see, I will jump till here. This is a simple way to illustrate matrixness in a BIM model. To the left, you see a coarse mesh. And some of the items here are items you don't change. At this point in the project, actually the building site is almost about to start. The foundation works will start in 6 weeks. The structure will start in 3 months. And then you know that if the shafts, the staircase shafts, are made out of concrete, you know that you have to understand the fire escape rules. So you see the green line to the right in the course model is the fire report. It needs to be finished at that time. And you don't change it afterwards, because if you change it, you will build wrong. So the BIM model moves from being a coarse mesh, like the skeleton in an elephant, and we move from there off into the more detailed phase of cross-disciplinary information, still without changing any of the parameters from the first wave. The last part is actually the part where the team only adds information that's not cross-disciplinary. This is a normal way, I think most of us has experienced, how a project develops. We have fairly long phases. You deliver perhaps 30% of your deliverances in the concept phase. And the client has a huge chunk of information to evaluate. And very often the project continues. And you get the feedback when you're halfway or 1/3 into the next phase. What we have done in the KMD project is to chop off. We have been looking at the whole design from A to B as one continuous flow, not having huge chunks to evaluate. And we have been chopping up with a 14-day interval. We call that a takt. And even more important, the client needs to be there. So the client needs to evaluate on a 14-day basis. Not like we often experience, that they come back 3 months afterwards or 1 month afterwards, and you have to restart the whole design. You are never, ever able in complex processes to actually cross-check everything at that level. So this is a very important principle of how we have worked in the KMD project. It's very central here is the highly valuable design team. There's a lot of experience, a lot of expertise in the design team as such. And to break down and to be able to control the information flow, this is where it happens. Everything I've been talking about till now is strategical. Now we are down to the design team. It's the MEP engineer, it's the fire engineer. They are the one, the architect, they are the one who knows the detailed information. And working in a tact, as we have been doing, it sits in that group to ask for the right type of information. And we have been using, I'm doing this fairly quick, I can come back and have a long lecture another time. We have been doing this through logs. Remember, I was talking about that we wanted to, or perhaps I didn't say it, but an important thing is to avoid waste, because we do cost quite a lot of money. And one of the things we have done is that we have not used one single minute on resumes. We have only been using logs. We have asked for information through a table, sitting around the table, pulling in information into the BIM model, and we have logged the questions. Having 14 days, a question should never be longer, never be more complicated than you can answer it in 14 days. You have to chop down the information flow. Sometimes we are allowed 6 weeks. 6 weeks, yeah. So the questions are asked, and you receive it 14 days afterwards. Then it's green. And we do that around the table, so everybody sees if you deliver or not. And if you haven't delivered, you get the red spot. That's not so fun. Used very simple visual tools. This is a typical agenda for a 3-day meeting in our project. We start with checking that everybody has delivered. We have table meetings where we go through special issues. We have one session of clash control. And finally, at the end, we ask for deliverances from the whole group. And when it comes to clash controls, we are doing it, yes, but actually the quality doesn't sit in the clash control. The quality sits in you enabling to put the information in the model. And that's our experience, that very often you don't find any clashes because the information is not in the model. And, even more important, clashes actually doesn't show what's drawn. So to make sure that you get what you need, you have to actually visually control the model. I have to jump this. So, I think I will end this lecture talking a little bit about values. Three core values. Transparency. Transparency means that everybody can observe and understand each other. Observing what others are doing and letting others observe what you are doing will contribute to making each other better. For example, plans, overviews, and suggestions should be made big, visible, and easy to understand. We all have the same objective, and we are all working on the same project. So everybody needs to be able to see the same. Transparency means that the project progress is always visible. Also decisions, ideas, and information are not in someone's head, but accessible to the entire team. So the BIM is our common virtual space. Being together in the same room is our physical space. And these two are just as important. They belong together. We have time for a small movie. You're not able to start it? No. Okay, then we skip it. This is a world map. And this is me, or you, wanting to sit in your own bathtub. And on many of our projects, we meet these guys that are very skeptical and not willing to share. And it gets even worse when they sit all over the world. And the point I'm trying to make is that with the information flow we all are handling now, transparency and sharing will be more important than ever. BIM is just a way to collate information, but the structure of the information and the strategy behind, that's us. We want to sit in the same bathtub, all of us. We want to share, because that benefits the society and it benefits the project as such. This is a building, it's a picture from mounting the roof for one of the pebbles on King Abdullah's. It looks rather chaotic. We are back to the first picture with everybody running. It's hard to say if there's a structure there. It did come up, but it could have come up in a smoother way. We need the road signs. We need the key points to structure our work. And our motivation has been a desire to optimize the input from every one of the specialists, being highly competent as a design team. In every project, and in the complex one as in special, we want to make sure that we get to deliver and to receive the right product at the right time. Based on the learnings from the KMD project, Snøhetta has now established their own method, tailored for iterative and creative processes. We have named the method Snowflow. Our platform is based on the understanding of that the strategy behind using BIM is more important than the tool itself. The core values are transparency, delegated ownership, and added value for all parts. In order to control your output, you have to structure your input. Snowflow is a mindset, enabling us to run smoother and more structured processes. It all comes down to the human as a resource. How to optimize the interaction between individuals and how to weave each of the single efforts into one unified. Thanks for listening.